Hello and welcome to GameStack. We are talking about homebrews, demos, and hacks this time around.
Yeah, that's right. These are some things that I've personally never really gotten into until this episode.
Yeah, you really had no idea about the whole...
Well, I knew it was there, but I just never was really interested in it, so...
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, but now I kind of am after, playing some of these games.
Yeah, and you can play these obviously on an emulator or, flash carts like the SD2 SNES or the Overdrive family, which we're using in this episode. Mm-hmm. And all of the stuff you see here are being run on the real consoles.
Yeah. So we're not cheating, really.
Yeah. Anyway, let's start off with some homebrew stuff.
Okay. Yeah, homebrew sounds good.
There are plenty of homebrew games for the Genesis that are actually for sale as physical cartridges like Pure Solar here, which we've discussed before. There's also Oh Mummy, which is kind of a weird arcadey game which I don't particularly care for. If you look hard enough, I'm sure you'll be able to find these games for sale. There's also Sacred Line Genesis, which sells for $6 and is only available as a download. It's a graphical text-adventure horror story. Basically, you're checking out this creepy place that you stumbled upon, and you're trying to figure out why all this slaughter has been happening here. You can make your choice from different options presented to you at a given time, but be careful, a wrong choice can lead to a nasty death. Fortunately, there's checkpoints you can restart from. One interesting thing about this game is that you use a die to play the battles. You roll it and whatever comes up is what you've got to pick. And let me tell you, it can get pretty tough sometimes. Yeah, you can cheat and play without the die, but this adds a big element of chance to the battles. The graphics are all rendered stills and the somewhat grainy, creepy music definitely fits the mood. You can get this game or try a demo over at Sasha Darko's website. Link is below. There's also lots of other stuff that you can download for free, like Glassbreaker by TMEE? Nah, I'm just giving you a hard time, Tito. In this one, you play as a juvenile delinquent and your goal is to break every single window in this house. And for some weird reason, everything else is trying to stop you from breaking the windows. If anything touches you, you're dead.
Game over.
Even a little kitty cat can kill you.
Game over.
You'll die a lot in this game, that's for sure.
Game over.
There's even a Pringles game. Who wouldn't want that? Your goal is to make it to the goal in every level or fall off, whichever is easier for you. Either way, you clear the level. There are 3 worlds with a total of 9 stages. You'll be playing this one for seconds. And even Angry Birds has come to the Genesis, unofficially of course. And yes, it sucks just as bad as you think it would. They improved it slightly with Angry Birds in Russia, but it's still not a very enjoyable game to play on a console. They even have Angry Birds Star Wars, but I barely even see the connection. Oh well. Ports of other games from different consoles are always fun. Here's Super Mario Bros. For the Genesis. Graphically, it looks almost identical with only slight differences in the hues. Of course, the music sounds completely different. I'm not really sure I like the way it sounds, but I guess it's not offensive. The gameplay is perfectly intact and it controls well. One of the more ambitious homebrews for the Genesis is Project MD. This one's not complete, but it's still pretty interesting. It's a side-scrolling platformer where you jump and collect little diamond coin things while avoiding lots of obstacles. The designer, who goes by the handle of Sick, admits that he's not much of an artist, but his techniques are still pretty awesome. The scrolling is excellent, with up to 4 overlapping layers in certain points. Or how about this stage with lots of overlapping color transparencies? The control is smooth and you can jump and bounce on enemies for an attack. There's some pretty cool stage design here and there, but some of it's just too hard. Like these platforms, which appear and move way too fast, for example. Timing your landing on these is extremely difficult. Each stage has awesome music by Org866, I hope I pronounced that right. It really makes the game a lot more fun. There hasn't been any work done on this one for a long time, but one can always hope that more progress is made.
Blasters was even made for the Super Nintendo. Now it's called Super Road Blasters, and it uses the MSU1, which is basically an enhancement chip just like the Super FX, only different. It can help in full motion video streaming as well as CD quality audio. The MSU1 is built into the SD2 SNES and is emulated by the BSNES emulator. It really is amazing to see the Super NES running full motion video with all of the audio of the Laserdisc game. Granted, the game isn't full screen, but it runs really well and has very responsive controls. All the audio is here and I think it sounds great, but it's the original arcade audio and not the redone stuff for the Sega CD, unfortunately. The video does have a lot of noticeable compression artifacts, but really it isn't a problem. I'm just happy they made the best FMV game around playable on my Super NES. Now, if they could only release Night Trap, Tomcat Alley, and other great Sega CD games on the Super Nintendo, my world would be complete. Just kidding. I'm not as dumb as Joe looks. Another game that uses the MSU1 is a game called Super Mario Odyssey by Rusted Logic. The MSU1 chip is used for the audio. It sounds really good. It makes me think of what a Super NES CD-ROM might have been like. The title screen music sounds nothing like Mario-style music, but that's fine because I love the beat and the feel of it. The music inside the game is much more Mario sounding and it uses a lot of the same melodies from the other Mario games. It all actually sounds authentic and it fits perfectly. The game is just a looping level. The level design is great, and if Rusted Logic ever completed a full game, I'd actually pay real money for a download. Another interesting homebrew is Tongue Man's Logic by Chris Covell for the TurboGrafx-16. In this one, you have a grid and you need to color in pixels to reveal a simple picture. Clues are provided via numbers along the side and top of the grid. You need to use logic to decide which pixels to color in. Be careful though, because you can only make a few mistakes, and then your game's over, sucker. If you like logic puzzles, then you'll like this one.
There's also some homebrew on CD for the Turbo Duo, like Mysterious Song by Frozen Utopia, which was only released commercially. This is a JRPG style game which was ported from a PC game. This version offers balanced gameplay as well as upgraded graphics and music. You play as Spear, and this mofo hears a voice in his head and it's pissing him the hell off.
Get out of my head!
He'll find out later what's going on with that, but for now you've got other things to do. You've got your typical towns to wander around in and get clues, as well as battles to fight. Lots and lots of battles. Since this game is on CD, you also get CD quality music. It plays really well, though my TurboGrafx CD didn't really like how often the game needed to load. Another homebrew CD game for the TurboGrafx is Insanity by Aetherbyte. Now, if this game kind of reminds you of, Berserk, well, then congratulate yourself, because it basically is. You're a human trapped in a maze of electric walls and robots. In order to get to the next room, you simply need to go out one of the exits. You don't need to kill all of the robots, but you get a bonus if you do. There's no particular path or anything that you need to figure out, as the rooms always appear in a random order. When your score reaches a certain point, the enemies and the music change. Speaking of music, you can choose between CD or PSG quality tunes. The CD tunes are awesome, but you know what? I really like the sound of the system-generated PSG tunes even more. And you should too. In the words of the immortal Tony the Tiger, they're great. Okay, no, I'm not doing this joke. I mean, the PSG tunes, they are good, but they are not as good as Tony the Tiger or Frosted Flakes. This is just where I draw the line. This game is also available for your Xbox 360 at the sky-high price of $1. Suck on that, Xbox One owners, or should I call you X-boners? Also on the disc is a hidden game called Paku Paku. This is an early prototype of Aetherbyte's more recent game, which is called Pyramid Plunder, which I don't currently have. Overall, it's a fun arcade-style game that's good for killing some time. My biggest complaint with the game would probably be that I don't like the font. But there's not much reading involved, so I'll live.
'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not live. 'On all exits, you will not li
Reflectron is another game by Aetherbyte, but this one's freely available to download. It's basically just a high-score game, but the graphics and especially the music are really good. You're inside of a ship that has a deadly space cannon. You play as Bernard. You're a robot with a heart of gold. Basically, you just move back and forth firing and reflecting your lasers to kill the thingies on the other side. If 5 of these thingies make it to the crystal in the center, then the cannon fires. Everyone on the planet dies because you weren't good enough. That'll teach you to grow a conscience, you stupid robot. There's also lots of NES ports to the Turbo by Tomaitheous, like Castlevania here. This is not emulation. It's not perfect, but it's not horrible either. The processor in the Turbo is in the same family as the one in the NES, so porting games can be fairly easy. There's also Contra, and like Castlevania, it looks good and plays perfectly, but the sound is kind of goofy. And of course, you just gotta have a port of the original Super Mario Bros., right? This one looks a bit better than the Genesis port with slightly brighter colors, but in all honesty, I think the sound is worse. However, there are a couple of games that are damn near perfect. Mega Man has very few, if any, flaws as far as I can tell. There are no graphical glitches that I can see, and it sounds just like the NES. Seriously, it's amazing to me how the Turbo is able to mimic the NES sound so well. But as video games go, I like Mega Man 2 better, and that's on the Turbo as well. This one's not quite as perfect as Mega Man 1's port, but it's not far off. The music is extraordinarily close to the NES, and there are only a few graphical glitches here and there. The gameplay, though, is 100% perfect, and all of the tricks work. And come on, I'm playing Mega Man 2 on my TurboGrafx 16. How cool is that? Way cool, I say. Way cool.
Sir Arable is a super scary NES game by the Mojon Twins. Basically, your goal is to gather 25 flowers, but in order to do this, you'll need to advance through the horizontally scrolling playfield. And in order to do that, you'll need to get through gates which require keys to unlock. The only thing you can do is walk and jump. You defeat enemies by landing on top of them, but you've got to be precise, otherwise. This game isn't too bad for a homebrew, and I like the creepy graveyard-style graphics. The music is kind of annoying, but eventually changes up. Still, the game is kind of addicting in a weird way. Battle Kid by Sivak Games is another cool NES homebrew. This one is fairly impressive for the most part. You play as Timmy in a Mega Man-style platformer. It even has a backstory and everything. The game doesn't scroll, but instead you need to advance from screen to screen, getting past the traps in each one. Unlike Mega Man, you die with one hit and it's very easy to get hit. This game is based on memorization, so every time you try again, you tend to get a little bit further. The graphics are pretty good and the music is great. This music could easily be in a commercially released game. I also like that the difficulty screen tells you exactly what the difference is in each mode. The game itself is crazy hard though. Timmy moves really fast, which can make him a bit difficult to control at times. I do like its simplicity, and if you have a lot of time and spare room inside your brain to memorize each screen, you'll like this one.
Believe it or not, there's even some slightly interesting homebrew for the 32X. This is Wolfenstein 3D by Chili Willy. You can play through the entire first level or episode. Everything moves pretty smoothly and the colors are decent, but the sound is pretty bad. In all honesty, I have no idea if this is even the latest version or not. It probably isn't. There's also Rick Dangerous, which is a port of an old game by Core for European computers. The controls in this one suck my ass. Pressing up jumps, you need to press up and A to shoot, and pressing the C button is an automatic game over for some reason. This is one of those games that you need to memorize every single screen you come to because they all have different traps and you don't know what they are until you trigger them. Not really my type of game, to be honest. On the opposite end of the spectrum are Master System homebrews like Hubert here. It plays okay, at least it has some sound, kind of. Also on the Master System is Digger Chan by APOC. Basically, you dig downwards and you're constantly running out of milk, which is not good. Not good at all. So you be sure to get the milk. Can't live without milk. Make it to the bottom to finish the level. I have no idea why he doesn't have any legs here in level 2. But he has them back by level 3 where everything looks really weird. Yeah, my eyeballs. Turn it off. And those are some homebrews for you. Let's move on to some demos, which is, it's basically just the proof of concept style stuff. Nothing really
interesting to be.
Well, your demos weren't very
Mine
interesting.
weren't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My demos are pretty interesting. Anyway, let's take a look. There are lots of little demos on the Genesis like this one, which has a screen scaling back and forth over and over. Or more ambitious demos that you sit back and watch, like the recent Titan Overdrive demo that does a bunch of different things to some kick-ass music. There's even a Wolfenstein 3D demo. You can move around and shoot, but the enemies don't interact, so there's no real gameplay. It moves pretty smooth, and I don't know, it's kind of cool that it's being done on the Genesis without a 32X. Or how about this Star Fox demo by Steph? Once again, this is running on a standard Genesis and it has no real gameplay, but you can control the flight path of the R-Wing. But there's also this Star Fox demo by Gas Sega 68K. It looks similar to the other demo at first, but this one isn't on rails. You can fly pretty much anywhere you want, though there really isn't much to see. It is still pretty cool though, and I'd love to see a fully realized Star Fox homebrew for the Genesis someday. There's also some interesting stuff like demos that will rickroll you with the entire video and song. Okay, I guess that's really not very interesting, is it? One of my favorite demos is called Bad Apple. Now there's many different versions of this by many different people, but this is the 8 MB version by Steph, who did the first Star Fox demo we showed. You remember that one? That was nearly 30 seconds ago, so I don't blame you if you forgot. Anyway, the full video with sound is here, and it's almost mesmerizing to watch as both the visuals and the music are really catchy. Imagine renting or buying a game back in 1991, bringing it home, popping it in, and this pops up as the intro. Very well done. The 32X has a few demos to show off some of the colors that it can do, or to prove to the naysayers that it can actually spin a 3D cube, or even have a screen of fire. Can't do that on Nintendo. But then there's this Yeti 3D demo by Chili Willy. I guess Yeti is a 3D engine that's been ported over to a few different platforms. This particular one uses one of the 32X's processors for the 3D graphics and the other one for the audio, which is actually a mod file I enjoyed nearly 20 years ago. I actually gave Chili Willy 3 different mod files to include in this particular build, and if you press the mode button on the controller, it'll switch between them. Every once in a while, these weird blue alien dudes hunt you down, and you can shoot them, but generally you're just wandering around in a creepy enclosed area. Everything here is being done by the 32X. In fact, the only thing that the Genesis is doing here is processing the controller input. And on the Master System, we see some full-screen zooming effects. It's pretty simple, and I wonder why no games ever did anything like this back in the day. I mean, these demos take up very little memory. If I was able to show this to Dave back in 1987, I guarantee you he'd be a Sega fanboy now.
Oh, keep dreaming, Joe. Anyway, here's a couple of demos that were actually done by real companies instead of fans. This is the SQUARESOFT Panda Mode 7 demo. Obviously, the point of this demo was to show the Mode 7 capabilities of the Super NES. This is it, folks. Are you as blown away by this as I am? The most interesting thing about this that I found was that there were 2 cartridges made with this demo on it. One was lost, and the other one was sold on eBay in 2010 for $95. That's some crazy collecting there. You know, I think if Joe saw this back in 1991, he'd definitely be a Nintendo fanboy today.
Yeah, sure.
I'm serious. And this is the SNES test program. After doing a little bit of research, the only solid reason I can find for this program to exist is for the Nintendo world-class service providers. It's more of a diagnostic tool that lets the Nintendo fix-it men find out what the hell is wrong with your system. Thankfully, mine passed all tests, which means I'm awesome. A ton of different things happen when you run tests. It displays different colors and grid patterns to check for screen symmetry. It tests the controller for input from all the buttons. This is what it looks like when Joe plays Street Fighter 2, by the way. He's easy to beat. It also runs checks on your right and left audio output.
This is your left channel.
You can even run tests on accessories. The whole thing is interesting on the first run through, but in all honesty, I probably won't run it more than, well, let's say 7 or 8 times a year, as it's just not as fun as something like Zelda.
And those are the demos for you. Some pretty cool stuff here and there.
And some not so cool stuff here and there.
Anyway, let's move on to hacks, where people take existing games and go in and change the code, alter things around, and just do all sorts of fun stuff.
Even write a whole script.
Yep. And anyway, let's take a look at the hacks. There's plenty of hacks for pretty much any system that rearrange levels and whatnot. This one here is called Sonic Megamix, and it's one of about only 20,000 Sonic hacks. I guess if you like Sonic, you might enjoy it, but I couldn't really keep an interest in it. In all honesty, I'm just not a huge Sonic fan. There's also Sonic Classic Heroes, which has you playing 3 characters at the same time in Sonic 1. You can switch between them and all that, but again, I'm just not really into Sonic hacks. But why play that when you can always play Butt Babies and Tranny Tramps, and who wouldn't want to play that? You start off by choosing which Butt Baby or Tranny Tramp you want to control. So which would you rather play as, a Butt Baby or a Tranny Tramp? Personally, I like the Butt Babies. This is a hack of Battletoads vs. Double Dragon on the Genesis, in case you haven't noticed. If you think the graphics are gross, the music is even worse. Far worse. Honestly though, my favorite hacks are English translation hacks of Japanese games that were never released over here. For example, there's the Phantasy Star 2 Text Adventure series. These were released as download only via the modem in Japan initially, and then they were brought to the Mega CD on certain game canned volumes. You play as a side character from the main game in each volume, and if that sounds good to you, well, now they're all in English. Other games like Monster World 4 have been translated. This one is definitely worth playing through, even in Japanese, but the English text, yeah, it makes it a lot better. Or there's King Colossus, which is an overhead dungeon crawler translated by M.I.J.E.T, I don't know. We may cover this one in a future episode, as it's kind of fun with some cool music. And M.I.J.E.T also translated Langrisser 2, which really should have been released over here. It's an overhead strategy RPG with great music and lots of intense battles. The first game in the series was released over here, and it was called War Song. If you guys had bought more War Songs, then we'd probably have this one over here. What the hell's wrong with you people? Yeah, I didn't buy one when it was new either, so I guess it's my fault too. The TurboGrafx CD, aka Turbo Duo, has a few great English translation hacks. The most noteworthy one is Ys 4, which we talked about in our Ys episode a few months back. They not only translated all of the text, but all of the spoken dialogue as well. Pretty damn cool. More recently, Dracula X has been translated into English, becoming Castlevania Rondo of Blood. Thanks to the PSP port of this game and Castlevania The Dracula X Chronicles, this translation was fairly easy. They used the English audio from the PSP version, so like Ys 4, it's a complete all-around translation.
I am Richter Belmont, Vampire Hunter.
You might even almost say that it's an official Konami translation of the game, since they're the ones who did it for the PSP. But now, you can play it on your Turbo CD or Turbo Duo just like nature intended.
Next time, it won't be so easy.
Even Shining Force 3 Scenarios 2 and 3 for the Saturn have been translated. This is definitely awesome because now people can finally play the entire story. Well, they can if they can run CDRs on their Saturn, I guess. Shining Force Central appears to have done a really good job on the translations. Hopefully, we'll be able to cover these games in more depth in a future episode. I'm really looking forward to playing through the whole thing.
This is Gate of Thunder Force by Tomaitheous for the Turbo Duo. Basically, it's a sprite hack which inserts the Thunder Force ship into Gate of Thunder and even has some of the Thunder Force weapons. The music is really cool, and it's all arranged from Thunder Force 3. The gameplay is 100% Gate of Thunder though. There's also a Castlevania 2 hack for the NES by Biscuit. This one retranslates the entire game from the original Japanese and uses a slightly nicer font with faster text. But that's not all! Now you can press the select button to bring up a map to show you where you are at any given time. This is definitely cool. Also added was a save feature, but it doesn't seem to work very well on the NES Overdrive for some reason. I guess you could always use the save states that the Overdrive offers to bypass that. The password feature is also still there. I've always enjoyed Castlevania 2, and it's nice to see it getting this kind of love. Like Joe, some of my favorite hacks are English translations of Japanese games. So let's take a look at Star Ocean on the Super Famicom, which was released in 1996 in Japan only. It was later translated into English by DeJap. After playing a bit of this game, I feel that DeJap did a great job with the translation. The story is interesting and the dialogue is really good. Although the Star Ocean series is a space-based action RPG, this first installment doesn't really have that big of a space feel to it. Most of the areas you visit feel more fantasy-based. The game plays really well, and I like the combat system. It's a real-time system instead of a turn-based, and it'll keep you on your toes thinking of who to attack and also who is attacking you at any moment. There's a lot of voice work in this game. It all sounds a bit quiet and muffled though.
Would you like some coffee, Captain?
Yes, I'd like that.
During battles, everyone is talking, which is really confusing, but ultimately, it doesn't hinder the battles at all. I really like the soundtrack. I actually liked more songs than I hated, and that's always a good thing. Graphically, the game is great with rich backgrounds, reflections in the water, moving trees, and cool-looking shaded areas. I was impressed. Oh, and did I mention that it's 48 mega power? Suck on that one, Joe. If you're on the fence at all about buying a repro card of this game, I would say it's worth it if you can get it for a decent price. Seiken Densetsu 3 is another Super Famicom game that people long for in English. As you may know, it's the sequel to Secret of Mana. As time went by, this game grew a cult following, and in 2000, an English hack was completed and released across the internets. Obviously, this one's available as a reproduction card as well. The translation, as far as I can tell, is great. The story is well written, easy to follow, and entertaining. The battles are all fought real time, and again, I like this, even though it can get a little confusing at times. There's a lot of characters on screen, and they all seem to bunch up in one spot, so it can be really tough keeping an eye on the character you're controlling. There are ways to kind of counter this by setting up positions for your characters to fight. Just like any SQUARESOFT game out there, it's overloaded with details. Each character can choose a class which has different attributes, and when it's time to level up, you can choose to level up light or dark or even degrees of each of these. There's also a calendar function. Each day only lasts 3 minutes, just like in real life, and each day of the week is attached to an elemental spirit. If the magic you use corresponds to the day of the week, it'll be stronger. In all honesty, this is overkill in my opinion. I don't have the time for all this depth, and even if I did have the time for it, would I really care to get that involved? Probably not. Anyway, the game is very pretty with some great graphics and lots of diversity in the backgrounds. The music is generally good with a few exceptional tunes. It's a fun game, and thanks to the English hack, it's now playable for us English-speaking folk. Ys 5 was originally released on the Super Famicom in Japan in 1995 and was never translated. Finally, 18 years later, Aeon Genesis has completed the English hack, and this was released on Thanksgiving of this year, which is 2013 by the way. I've only had a chance to play a few short hours, but so far I've liked what I've played. The dialogue is great, and of course it's really nice to understand the story and to be able to navigate the menus in English. I've noticed it's a lot different than previous games in the series. Sure, it's still a top-down action RPG, but they added some new abilities that some people like and most people don't. You now have the ability to jump, which adds a small bit of platforming. This really didn't bother me, as I'm always a fan of platforming. Also new here is the ability to swing your sword and hold up your shield. Overall, I think these work well. I sometimes feel the hit detection is a bit off when swinging Adol's sword, but it's really nothing to complain about. The music is good, but from what I've heard so far, it's not as great as the previous or even the successive games. Since they just released a hack, a reproduction cart wasn't available at the time of shooting this episode. I'm really looking forward to beating this game in the near future, and if you have a chance to play this game, then don't hold off. It's a solid title, even if it does feel different than your typical Ys game.
And there you go. Those are our homebrews
Hacks.
and demos.
Yes.
And if we didn't get your particular homebrew hack or demo into this episode, we apologize. You know, we either didn't know about it, or we couldn't find it, or we're just
Right.
completely ignorant about
Nothing
it.
personal.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, an offense to you. But
Yeah, anyway, that's obviously not all of the homebrews hacks and demos that exist,
Not
no
even
how, no
close.
way. Yeah. So let us know if you come across any that are particularly impressive.
yeah, and that we should actually take a look at, because we'd like to take a look at it.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So,
This stuff's fun. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack.
What are you doing, Joe?
What? I'm making a homebrew game, Dave, based on GameSack. What the hell does it look like?
And you're using Art Alive to make it?
Dave, what the hell am I supposed to use to create Genesis graphics on? Come on.
That's true.
Oh man, this game is gonna be awesome. It's gonna rock.
Yeah, it probably is. I can't wait to play it. You're awesome, Joe.
Get ready to kick butt. 3, 2, 1, fight the fool!